All right. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for the time, by the way. I know it's a lot of time. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and let me know if I'm not doing this, if it's not showing up as it should. Can you see that?
Perfect.
Okay.
A pandemic style.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Leslie Podell, as you know, and this is my presentation for Senior Studio this year. If I was to identify an overarching theme that pervades all of my work at CCA over these past 12 years, it would be the play and exploration of color, materials, and form, and the interplay between them to create something of beauty. This is not a superficial endeavor for me, but rather a deep appreciation for the mysteries of this world. And I hope to explain that in this presentation. I originally began at CCA in the industrial design program, and I loved the creative aspect, but I did not like the pervasive design dictates to make product for a consumer market. This felt superficial. Everything was based in consumerism. I wanted to make without thinking about the marketplace. I wanted to create objects that had no designs on you, didn't want anything from you other than to make you stop and look, stop and remember how incredibly wonderful this crazy world is. I prefer not to work in meanings and statements, but rather in form and color and the beautiful relationship between these two modes. It feels more honest to me. Making for the joy of making. So naturally, I found the furniture department. And in the furniture department, I did make pieces that wanted nothing from you, that have no designs on you. Some have absolutely no function. I made pieces that are useless in the consumer landscape because you can't buy them. They exist solely for the purpose of my explorations and interests. I want to make objects that enchant, moving myself from the time-bound to the timeless, between us and the otherworldly. For me, making objects evokes this energy that transports me to a realm where time stops. Under this spell of enchantment, I'm filled with a feeling of plenitude, like love. And like love, it's the best life has to offer. And I know this is a lot, but this is why I make things. I make objects to be in contact with the best life has to offer, with this realm. And I want to make beautiful objects, objects that uplift and pull me out of my ordinary life and hopefully take me to this creative realm that is far richer and more eloquent. And I can only get there to this realm through my hands. I can only get there through the process. For me, my pieces are portals to this realm, to a place and time that I find very hard to articulate, because the words don't exist. This enchantment, it's more like an energy or a feeling. It doesn't take a concrete or defined shape. It's not reducible. These realms are inseparable, like time and memory. My pieces connect me to these places and to the beauty of this life and to the memory and space of childlike wonder and exploration. And they provide me a way to time travel and reconnect the over there with the here. And they represent and mark time for me, time that is past and the life that has been lived while in the process of making. And in my pursuit of beauty, there's a lot of effort. And beauty in my pieces hides the effort, the difficulty, and the work. And although work and process are the crux to entering the realm, and however important and intensive the work and process are to making contact with this realm, in the end, I don't lead with it. I do not lead with the work, I hide it. I hide the work and process in my pieces. For the viewer, I let the objects stand. I let the beauty stand. Beauty is a stand-in for this indescribable realm, and beauty is a stand-in for the work that takes me there. So although for me, process and imagination are the passkeys that allow me to access the realm, in my pieces, I use beauty as a device to elicit a visceral feeling. It is through the use of beauty that I'm trying to show you this place, to show you this realm I contact. And so, like a riddle inside of a riddle, I use beauty to sublimate the work, to conceal the effort. I'm bearing all traces of it in my piece, and it's a huge unseen part of my work, and that is by design. So it's hidden behind the shiny, finished surfaces. And you might think that I'm only concerned with the superficial because there is no overt message or takeaway in my work. You might be inclined to disregard them lacking depth or merit. And I'd say you're partly correct. And I'm okay with that. And that is by design. Remember, I'd prefer not to work in meanings and statements, but rather in form and color and the beautiful relationship between these two modes. It feels more honest to me. Making for the joy of making. And they do mean something to me. Beauty is a worthy endeavor. I do not want to overtly share my meanings, but I do want you to be captivated. I want sparks to fly, and I want you to look deeper. And I would give up to you this. I hope to elicit a memory in you, a memory of your own divine creative space. And beauty is the hook to suck you in and remind you to look deeper and seek out what lights you up. How can we have contact with the creative source? What sparks your creative spirit? For me, it's color, form, and materials, and the intellectual interplay between them. If you believe design is intrinsically intelligent, then there has to be intellect and beauty. I believe there is an intelligence behind what we desire that goes way beyond our understanding. There are millions and millions of years of evolution across all scales of life that direct key evolutionary forces to work deep within every cell. And like a bee to the center of a flower, we're drawn in, you know? But do we know? Do we know why, really? Beauty, or our ideas of beauty, are wrapped up in this event of natural selection and survival, but also in cultural, political, socioeconomical, and so many other areas as well. Could it be that our ideas of beauty are not even our determinations? Could it be that choice is an illusion of the ego? How much of what we desire is truly free will? How much of it is nature? How much of it is nurtured? Is there even such a thing as pure beauty? Beauty for the sake of beauty, beauty that is void of any intrinsic underlying primal survival device? These are ideas I've been researching and running through my head while working this semester. And I would say the truth lies in all of them. And actually that it doesn't even matter. Writings on beauty span the ages and areas of science, religion, politics, pop culture, philosophy, art, just to name a few. And yet never has there been a definitive answer for what is beauty and what is its purpose. Within the context of Western civilization, our relationship with beauty and superficialism has been an unending, complex, ever-shifting theoretical target, deified, ritualized, demonized, loved, fetishized, minimized, criminalized, shunned, worshipped. We try and own it and know it by defining it, but you can't. So this theme I move around, one of explorations in colors, materials, and forms, and beautiful and complex interplay between them, is a way for me to speak to the deep primal necessity of beauty. And this year's work is an exploration of that indescribable realm where I go to contact that beauty when I create. And combined with the surreal challenges and stress of this past year's event and the inordinate amount of time due to quarantining, I was able to play there a lot and move deeper into the realm. The creative realm that I know but find hard to describe. It's awash in incredible color and otherworldly forms where everything glows with chromatic lights and luminescent surfaces. If you look at our world close enough, it's all right here under our noses. I know some things we can't and aren't capable of physically seeing, and others we have learned to not see, but they all exist in my realm. And if you could really stop and look around, there are traces of this realm among us. The enchantment is everywhere. And while I love hearing about and learning and understanding the imparted meanings in others' work, I love that. I just don't want to assign meaning to my work, and I don't necessarily want to relate to you through meaning and messaging, but rather through a visceral feeling. I want to catch your eye and then your imagination. I call them cloud tables, little critters, baby clouds, form tables, rock tables, but they are not these labels. I just had to have a name, a reference when I was talking about them. They are inspired by the best of our world, by clouds and sea urchins and laughter and sunsets and playful gestures and shiny objects. Those references, those labels to these beautiful objects are just placeholders for this realm I can't describe. To me, my pieces transcend objecthood. They're really a place, a feeling, a memory that I access through the work and through the process, but then conceal. And although there's no direct message, I'm aware that people will try to create one, to place them, to index them, and that fascinates me as well. I like to hear how others make connections and try to place my objects. I like to hear what is conjured up in the viewer's mind, the narratives and the biases. It's like hearing juicy gossip about someone you thought you knew everything about. Absent my narrative, what comes to your mind? A friend of mine shared this image with me in September when we had that red sky, and he was landing at SFO. It's been with me ever since throughout my making this year. I find it astoundingly beautiful, but terrifying. Beauty can be otherworldly from our world, but temporarily detached from any point of orientation. Terrifying, deadly, and dangerous. This otherworldly place fascinates me and compels me, and that photo fascinates me and compels me. So after fall semester and working in foam for 4 months, I thought about changing course with my materials, trying something different, but I decided to stay and explore and play around more. I figured I'd learned so much. I was interested in this, I was interested and enchanted with this idea, this whipped cream-like effect that I was able to create mistakenly through the abuse and destruction of some tools. I loved the effect, but I needed to connect it. I needed to think about how I could use it to express my realm. And I had this idea, the looking glass, the portal. And then all it took was an email from Bill Chrysler checking in on me to see if he could be of any assistance on anything. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I've got this idea. I just don't know how to get it off the ground. And he totally was just like, we'll do it. That sounds totally interesting. And he helped me out. And then again, I was gone through the rabbit hole. I found my way through the process to that place that connects me back to the beauty of this life and to the memory and space of childlike wonder and exploration. But to you, the viewer, I let the objects stand. I let the beauty stand. Beauty is a stand-in for this indescribable realm and for the work that takes me there. I'm trying to show you this place I contact while in the process of making. I am using beauty to share and communicate this space. I'm trying to share it through my pieces. Can you see it? I'm creating objects that have no design on you and want nothing from you other than to make you stop and look. Stop and remember how incredibly wonderful this crazy world is. I'm making to connect myself back into and with the creative realm, to reconnect me to these places and to the beauty of this life, to the memory and space of childlike wonder and exploration. And I want to remind you to look deeper and seek out what lights you up. And these objects provide a way to time travel and reconnect the here with the over there. And I hope to elicit a memory in you, a memory of your own divine creative space. So think of my work as a cabinet of curiosities, that pieces together a fragmented and guarded realm where my truth runs counter to the laws that govern our world. A beautiful, poetic, ecstatic truth that even to me is as mysterious as it is elusive and can only be contacted through the two passkeys of fabrication and imagination. Can you see it? That's my slideshow. Are you guys there?
Leslie. Yeah, no, we're all asleep. Sorry.
I couldn't find you. I was like, oh shit, I just the whole thing and nobody was there. Oh well.
That was beautiful. It was really, really
That was gorgeous.
Eloquent and poetic and meaningful and revelatory.
Thank you. Spent a lot of time on it. So I kind of showed all of my work because it was my last, I don't know, I was trying to, it's been so long since I've been at school that a lot of you don't know what I've done 10 years ago. And I was just trying to give you a broader, just bring it all together so you could see it all in kind of one place.
I would like to comment that your presentation was really, really good. I know you've put a lot of, just like your work, you put a huge amount of effort into it and crafted every single word and sentence to go together with that. And I know throughout the year together, you've been nervous and reluctant about talking about the work and wanting to keep your, educate the guarded realm well guarded and not to kind of sully it with having to have these kind of overt explanations and also being constricted within the realm of art school where everything has to have a meaning and you have to be connected to all the other meanings around it. But you've done a really good job of doing exactly what you've been afraid of doing. You've told us what's under the work for you and you've established a territory, and your presentation was beautiful that way. I think it revealed this guarded realm that you've been talking about and gave dimension to it, and with a overtly fairly minimal approach. That was what, 15 minutes long, and yet I feel like I've been gone for an hour or 2 hours or something into the world you've created. So congratulations, that was really beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, I say that with great reverence to the history of furniture making and art, and trying to not get stuck in the weeds so much, but also, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And we could talk about beauty for hours and come away with no.
I would love to. Yeah.
Weeks.
I'm a fan. Yeah. No, that was really beautiful. I mean, I don't have any experience of how you've really presented things in the past. So, I don't know if that's what you do every single time, Leslie, but it was definitely great. I would really encourage you to put that somewhere, for someone to read, even if you may not want someone to hear your voice, or even to record it simply as an audio, because I think it was really it was mesmerizing, the journey that you took us on. I really enjoyed watching the images, but I could also have closed my eyes and just listened to what you were saying and thought about your work. And I think sort of the fact that you have to be so clear on wanting to work in a different way and wanting your work to not have to be explained with words or a concept or whatever, it really tells us a lot about where we've gone, right? In terms of what we expect from what artists and designers do, right? This language. because there was a time in the past when that language was not what the artists and the designers did, right? They made the things, and there was other people who brought language to it, right? The critics, the philosophers, the other people. So it's really, I really was thinking about that when you were talking, you know, like, why do you have to make that position so strongly in order for us to go, okay, we get it, you know? That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many narratives in my own work in one piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, as you sit there for weeks on end making something, everything that's going through your head is like you're all over the map, you're all over the universe, right? So, and I usually embed it's in the piece. You know, there's just, usually, depending on what's going on in my life, there's certain prevalent themes, obviously, but it's in there. It's like, you know, you have your timeline running this way, and you turn it this way, and all of a sudden all of time is in one dot. It's all, you know, so it's like time travel. And then like I was saying, it's like the memories of just, I was always kind of as a child making things and working with my hands always lost in that world. So, and I put it to bed for a long time. But it wasn't until I came back to CCA that I really fully got re-engaged with it and just, you know, remembered how much I love that world, that creative world where you're just working everything out and your brain is fired up and it's just all cylinders going. And, you know, you come out of the studio and you feel like you've had 100 hours of conversation because you've been in conversations with your materials and process, and as well as like your husband and your kids and your friend and your parents. It's like all mixed up, you know? So it's like, anyways, I loved being at CCA, and it's given me so much more than I think I've ever, you know, I could ever give back, as far as like the wealth and the richness of life, and what it just makes everything so much better when you're making. Makes life so much better when you're making. So I was trying to say that, and my pieces mean that to me. Like they just really mean the joy of life, like good, bad, ugly, all of it wrapped up in one. It's amazing to me. And it's hard to say that. It's hard to emote that. It's hard to speak about that, you know. So for me, when I make a piece and I just like put it down and I walk away, and it's like just this beacon, it's this shining, amazing thing that says so much to me.
They're very, you know, you definitely can't miss them, right? I mean, it's like they're objects that are clearly designed to draw you to them, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, again, it's like what is really compelling to me, a wee bit like, I mean, a wee bit sort of like the work of, you know, Jeff Koons or something. It's like you can't quite believe it exists, right? There's like, you're like, oh, like, what is that thing? You think it's one material and then it's another. And, you know, it's like you can't understand how it's made because there's no evidence, right? Of the hand, of a seam, of a, I mean, that's someone should write a whole dissertation about that, you know? Like, what does it mean for us as humans to experience these objects that we almost can't understand how humans made them, right? The humanness is almost not visible in the object, and yet it's totally there. So compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I do, nothing, my things aren't perfect. When you get up into them, they're not perfect. They're clearly made by hand, and that's okay, you know, but they take you right up to that point, you know. They don't lack humanity in that sense. Like you can see it. There's the mark of the mark of the hand is on it, so to speak. And I love Jeff Koons. I mean, he's like in perfection, right? And it's hard to tell who made that, a machine or God or whatever. So, and I'm new at this. Like this is, I mean, although I've been doing it for 12 years, I'm not like, I'm always, it's a new material, it's a new machine, it's a new thing. So they're not ever going to be, you know, if I had at it, if I kept going, maybe they could get there. But that's why I also wanted to stay in the foam for the year, because it took me so long just to sort of get to the point where I was feeling comfortable with it. And I thought, why would I give that away now? And so I just decided to keep going.
So I
So
know that the foam has its, I know I've been with you as much as I could be on Zoom with you, sweating blood over all these pieces and the slow drying of the resin and the hunt for the perfect foil and, the CNC process, then the hand working process, so many different layers of process and work goes into all of these. Would you continue working with foam? Do you feel like now it's a kind of like it allows you to express yourself in a way that allows you to kind of, now do even more work in that realm? Or is it something you kind of like feel like you've worked through that material and you wouldn't work with it again because of its negative qualities or whatever?
no, I mean, I think the foil is really, really compelling to me. I just love the way it looks, and it just does this crazy, magical. It's just I need to step back for a couple weeks and just maybe hang out with my kids because I do kind of become obsessed with things, and my husband's like, okay, see you in 3 weeks. I'll literally stand at the door and like eat dinner for 5 minutes and go back out. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I love it totally. And I figured this out by mistake. I was just playing around with those wires and breaking them. And I was like, that's a really cool look, but I don't know what I can do with it. And I think it was in October, I showed this object to you guys, this gold thing. And Kathy was like, and it was a quick like, oh yeah, and I did this. And Kathy was like, wait, what was that? And I was like, oh, it's just this thing. And I loved it too, but I didn't know how to turn it into anything. So it took me a while to sort of think about it and mold over, and I started drawing, and I drew that little table. And then I still didn't know how to get that thing going. And then Bill Chrysler, could not have been nicer and more lovely, just checked in. And so I sent him my little drawing. I said, I have this idea and I really want to do this, but I think I have to CNC it. And he was like, we can do that. And anyways, I love part of the process of working for me that I love so much is the people and collaborating and learning about other people's industries and materials and how you can bring what they know to what you are trying to kind of accomplish. And, it's always, what has to give and finding the way essentially. So yeah, I think I'd love to work more in this medium. It's super interesting to me. But as I like a lot of different, I like to, I'll probably explore other mediums too. I mean, keep changing it. The one thing I always have had a hard time with is wood, which it's always terrified me. So, I'm hoping I can come back and take a class every now and then. I don't know. I think we get Donald, you said maybe we can do 2 classes, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'll come back and do another cabinet class. And
That is true.
what was that?
That is true.
Yeah.
2 classes. Yeah.
I don't mind. I mean, I would come back anyways. Not even if you guys didn't offer it, I'd be happy to be one of those kind of ongoing students. But this was my cabinet. This is Adriana, to your cabinet, the curiosity. I love this cabinet curiosities is something that just keeps getting kind of tossed around between us in so many different ways. I used it in my ending of my presentation as, my work is like a cabinet of curiosities, and this was a cabinet of curiosities, and I love your cabinet of curiosities that holds all of your beautiful vases and yourself inside. Anyways.
How do you decide how many you're going to make of pieces and parts? Because it seems like at least it looked like, I wasn't sure how many of the most recent pieces that you made. It looked like there were at least 5 or so. Oh no, there's more.
I made 5. I made a total of 5. Originally, I was going to make 3, and then I just became obsessed with the salmon color and the mirror that went from yellow, and so I couldn't pare it down, and so and when I CNC'd these balls out, the people, I didn't use Bill because it was too expensive, and it was like asking Boeing to do like a paper airplane for you. But these people, I went down to this place in San Jose, they did them for me, and I paid for 3. But then when I got there, they're like, oh, we made a mistake on those guys over there, and if you want to take them. So I put as many as I could in my car. I think I got 6 in my car, and they gave me 3 for free. They and they're probably mistakes you won't even notice. So then I just kept them in the back in case I totally screwed up. And then I screwed up on one. I melted one by mistake. But then I was able to do 5. So, and that's why I became like, it was just like a crush at the end, trying to get all these things foiled and the polymer, and it was a lot. But I was thrilled because then I got to do all these colors, which I think I love. I mean, I love color, obviously. It just lights me up, and I don't know where I'm going to put these, but right now they live in my, they live here. And I'm always terrified somebody's gonna like trip over them or kick them, or they're kind of in the way.
They should live at Rosanna Orlandi Gallery in Milan. That'd be my suggestion.
I'll send them an email. My husband would love it. Because
if you've got suggestions on that regard, Helen Maria, would love that, because I'm really trying to twist Leslie's arm into, you know, continue to, you know, have ambition for this work, and I think it's definitely exhibitable. Carpenter Gallery, you know, there's a number of places that could be Carpenter's Workshop, you know, they could be interested in this work. I think it's very strong and visually, you know, catchy. It works really well on Instagram as well as presumably in person. So I think it's definitely you should get this work out there, you know, and see what comes from it. Are
you interested in that at all, Leslie? Or yeah. Sometimes when I hear you talking about it, it seems like they are definitely your objects, right? You know?
They definitely are, but I'm more than willing. And at this point in my life, I feel like after 12 years, it's okay. You know, I can, it's like your children. You can, it's, you know, it's, yeah. And I think particularly with these balls here, I've got it down after doing 5. Like I feel confident that I could do this again, you know. None of them are alike, because once you make the cut, you can't go backwards, but you know, yeah. Absolutely. It was
I mean, I think they're really different, right? I mean, I nothing, I mean, I look at a lot of, I'm pretty much a fan of this kind of world of this, you know, this kind of art designed objects, right? It's like my thing. And I really don't, I haven't seen these before, that's for sure. I haven't seen this technique. I haven't seen these forms. They're very original. And that's why, I mean, I think that's, you know, that's a difficult space to find, actually, to find a space where you can be original in that world, because there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of good stuff out there, beautiful things out there, you know?
There's a lot, and that's part of my whenever I was making and looking, researching in other classes, I was like, there's so much stuff out there. And even if you think you have an original idea, you just have to start researching, and you're like, oh my God, somebody's already done it, or it's that, there it is. And I know it's so I kind of retreated and just made for my own making, and made for my own joy, and made for what makes me happy and lights me up, and not kind of like think about anything else. But yeah, I know design is, I mean, everybody has access to a computer, and everybody has access to images, and everybody, you know, it's I also often, the reason I left ID was I just didn't think the world needed any more stuff, you know? So I was kind of like, I'm just going to make for myself, make one and make it for me. And that's how I found my way to the furniture department originally, is just because I didn't want to make, or use resources, make for others and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I didn't think the world didn't need another, you know, there's some brilliant stars out there, and I just didn't need to kind of deal with that. So anyways.
There's kind of an interesting energy relationship in there. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about, right? So it's like, you know, some ways when I see, oh, one here, sweetie, so loud. My husband might join the critique in a second, actually. He might just come on over here. When I see some, you know, I've gone to like all these big design fairs where you also see these kind of industrial design fairs, like the Houseware Show in Chicago, right? And it is mind blowing when you walk into a convention center and there's 4 million plastic ladles, and you think, I know some of those are good, but wow, right? Do we need that much stuff? There's kind of like a one person designs it in a limited amount of time, and then we just push this thing out in the world, and there's a big imbalance of the energy there, you know. And I think this is almost like the opposite. It's like you spend insane amounts of time and energy and personal dedication, and you get an object. You know, it's like, it's a kind of maybe nicer balance, right?
To me, it felt really interesting to do that kind of work, just because it felt like it satisfied something in me, and it was not the normal way to go about the world. This everything's based in consumerism, and you know, and I the coffee maker, like every year there's a new coffee maker. Like I've what different color, new chrome editions, like why? And then that cycle of desire, and that cycle of just feeding it, you know, and not thinking. And I sort of felt like if I'm going to go back to school and if I'm going to spend my time, I had 2 dictates for myself, and one was that I would anybody I came into contact with, I would make their life, it would be a plus. Like, I don't need to be doing this. I don't need to be. So if I was going to do this and I went out in the world and I'm not going to, if I had to be a stress basket and be rude and horrible to people, it's not worth it. Right. So anything I took up a challenge, I had to interact in the world in a way that became a positive with the school and with any materials. And the other part was for my family. If I was going to be doing this, I had to do it in a way that would benefit and make better for my family. So that's kind of how I entered into this journey, with those 2, you know, overriding stipulations. And I think, with the exception of 1 or 2 moments, I've been okay. So nobody's perfect. So yeah, I mean, entering into this journey through ID and then coming out through furniture, you know, very shortly thereafter, finding the furniture department and moving myself through that was amazing. I think it's an amazing place to try out your creativity and do new things and explore, and, you know, without dictates such as it's not this season's color or, you know, whatnot.
I've got a pretty tiny comment. It's really tiny, but maybe it's interesting. You said something earlier about when Chrysler reached out to you and talking about how much you enjoy working with other people. And I think, you know, practice is such a big thing, and, you know, making the work is one thing, and, you know, being a collaborator is also a key characteristic of creative practice and can be the center for you, you know, like that can be one aspect of your work that is just as valid as the production of the object itself. You know, I mean, there are people that build their whole careers on being collaborators, you know, and so thinking about, you know, there's the work, and then there's all the stuff around it, you know, and how do you engage with all the rest of that becomes part of your practice as well. So, you know, I think that, you know, your presentation was great because it's like, okay, now I really get it. Like, this is what the work is about. And now we can kind of look at the rest of it too, you know, like how much you enjoy working with others, and how, you know, like involving Iñaki and Jen and bringing them into your projects. Like that's craft and making as an act of collaboration, which is really powerful as well. So I think there are a lot of things around the way you work that are also really interesting, in addition to, you know, the design and making process. So, you know, now that you're gonna graduate, you know, like it's your practice can become take on the complexity of the world now, right? Like you're going out into the world and engaging with it. So, I hope you hold on to those things, like collaboration and enjoying working with people. And honestly, it's like supporting other people's businesses, right? Like that's actually a really important thing that designers can do with their work is, supporting a community of creative people that are working really hard every day to make a living. And those are really important things as well. So,
Totally.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, you really learn who, just like to make all of my shiny objects, I was reliant on, there's only one guy in the Bay Area who still does mirror polish, and it's this family and they're amazing. And I've known them now for 9 years, right? And anyways, yeah, it's these guys.
Yeah, and there's his idea that as technology becomes quote irrelevant, it becomes art. Like the book press was once a part of industry, but now it is an art form. And so these folks you're working with, with automation, all these massive changes that are happening in the landscape of manufacturing. These are the artisans of now and the future. So just making work that can support these economies is really important because it keeps that craft alive. So it's a really important part of practice as well.
It's like yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate you guys listening. I was a little bit, nervous because I didn't talk about any of my, I didn't talk about the work until like the last 30 slides. So they're gonna be like, I thought we were here to talk about the senior work. So thanks for sticking with me.
I don't know if you've, I'm sure you've read 100 different things, but this book by Ellen Dizanayaki really came to mind during your presentation, and it's a pretty old book now. Do you know that? Have you read this book?
I didn't, by Naki?
I put it in the chat, Ellen Dizanayaki. Yeah.
I think I have to, should I end the slideshow? Stop share?
Oh.
If you want, but you should be able to see the chat still.
I don't know why I can't see it. I'm sorry.
It's in there. No, you'll be able to see it later. But this book, it's really about, it's basically, she talks about what art is for, but you can put any word in there, design, like you can put any kind of creative word in there. And she basically sort of creates this framework that says, why are we trying to define what it's for? It's like, this is a waste of our time. It's obviously necessary because people have done it even when all they needed to do was eat and drink, so like going back to the beginnings of time, this has been what people have done, and she goes through this kind of history and it's really joyful to read. It's like it makes perfect sense. It's really obvious, but it's lovely that she has this kind of articulation of it in this book.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. I mean, I love that. I was doing a lot of researching when I was trying to figure out how I would place this work and how I could talk about it. And it just literally, and it just got so convoluted and wasn't truthful to me. Like I could, in the span of 45 minutes to try and zero in on something, so I really wanted to pull the lens back and just talk about like the realm and where I draw from and this is beautiful and what's wrong with that. Like I was going to call it in defense of beauty, but when I Googled that was some like porn thing. I don't know. Sorry. So I was like, I'm not going to call it that. But yeah, I think it's a dialogue that I feel has been sort of missing from my time at CCA, but also I also have to put that under the lens of that, I think when you're taking students who are a little bit younger and you're trying to educate and show everybody and educate on the different movements and theories and design methods, like you have to kind of go through that to then be able to say, well, this is how I see my work. But so I get that. It was just, I haven't felt like I could really talk about this part of my work, very well. Without, rarely do I get 20 minutes to try and explain my work. So anyways, thank you. And then these guys, these are my boots I've been wearing. I don't know if you saw this. These are the boots I've been wearing for like 12 years.
If we have a graduating show, you'll have to wear the boots to the show.
Yeah. And they kind of there's a little bit of every project on them. So this is when I was doing my resin screen. I was actually, when I was model making, I was thinking about doing gilded blocks of wood. So I was gilding little pieces of wood and doing a little mini scale of it. And so I was like, what else can I gild? And my shoes are right there, so I gilded them. But anyways.
Maybe eventually you will become one of your pieces of art.
Definitely actually a thing already, frankly.
They're perfectly eloquent though, because you talk about beauty being revealed through process and hard work, and so what better metaphor than that is than gilded boots, gilded working boots. That's just the perfect metaphor for that notion, I think.
That's why I ended with it. But thanks for getting me, Donald.
Always, Leslie.
That's it. That's all I got. I'm sad.
Is that all?
Yeah, I'm sad.
Well, you'll be back, as you said. You've got 2 more classes, and we've got a senior show coming up at some stage. And
Yeah.
I would hope that there's kind of 3 different conditions whereby people leave CCA. They're just like, fuck it, I'm out of here. I'm sick of this place. I don't want to see it ever again. I'm done. Just like, ah. And there's people come out with a kind of like, that was great. That was really good. I need to just like do something else for the next 3 years and then think about it and see what comes back. And there's other people that come out like they've been shot out of a cannon. And they're just, the passion has been stoked, and there's just no holding them back. And I really feel like both you and Adriana, both of you are at the cannonball stage. I think that I would like to think that there's, no opportunity for you not to do it anymore. It's now part of your blood, it's part of your DNA, it's part of the way you engage with the world. And that's what successful art making and creative design is all about.
Thank you, Donald. I do feel like, yeah, that's nice to hear. I do. There's something about having a deadline and a syllabus that to me is very motivating. So left to my own devices, we'll see, which is why I might come back. To use you as a platform to make stuff.
Well, all you need is an exhibition deadline.
Exactly.
That's
with
true.
a theme.
That's
It's just that's the translation of it. You don't have the team, unfortunately. Or maybe you do. Maybe you just have Donald and Cassie and Adrian forever. Maybe that's how it works.
Okay. You guys on board with that? You're like,
Totally.
lose my number.
We were both students once, so clearly it keeps giving.
This is true.
Yeah.
I'd come back TA.
I think that's part of it. It's part of about building your team of people, and that team is, your family and the people who enable you in various ways, and the people who you can rely on to be honest and direct and open with you about the nature of your work. And that's actually fairly hard to find. And when you first graduate, the people, they're either your peers who you went through or the professors you worked with. And so don't be backwards in reaching out about that stuff.
Okay.
It's exciting for us to see your work progress, and to move on. And I'm sure it's great for those guys to come and work with you as well. I'm sure they'd say the same thing, just kind of come back into, a year later to come and help someone else who is progressing through their senior studio. It's really wonderful.
It was so fun to have them in the house for a couple, like I think a week and a half. And it was just, everybody's just doing their work, and sometimes we'd talk, or there'd be music or food, it was food nonstop, but it was really nice to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, I think they appreciated it too, just being in that studio. It was, studio at my house, but just that atmosphere of work.
Yeah.
parallel play is what they call it, when everybody's doing their own thing, but you're doing it together.
Mhm. Yeah, well, cool. Congratulations, Leslie and Adriana. I think you both passed.
Congratulations, both of you.
I really love hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's another way of staying. Of course, you want to stay, Leslie. I can just keep on failing you indefinitely, and you can just keep on repeating senior studio.
The thought did cross my mind. I'm not gonna lie.
And Helen Maria and Adrian and Catherine, thank you for being part of this review and for the earlier ones as well. Adrian and Catherine, you've been along on this ride for the entire year, so your voices are in amongst all the other voices that Leslie's now got embedded in her head, and Adriana's got embedded in her head from this semester as well. So I always, I often think of that. Is it kind of like Bugs Bunny cartoon where he's got like a little angel and a little devil on each shoulder, and they're whispering in his ear. And I often think of myself as one of those characters is just going to sit on your shoulder for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. My professors are like that. I often think, oh yeah, George would hate that. George Ingham would really hate what I'm doing right now, and he's got no control over what I'm doing. So I think we internalize the voices of our mentors and people who we worked with, and that's a really important part of becoming part of the culture that we're engaged with.
Well, Donna, you've been amazing this whole year. So thank you, really. I mean, this has not been an easy year. This is the strangest year ever. To make on your own and find your own, everything essentially. And you kind of guided us through that. Totally calm. Totally.
Yeah, I've lost it once or twice, but not too bad. Not too badly. Yeah. So thank you everyone, and I guess that's it. We'll see. But we're apart from Helen Maria, you're invited as well. We're having a kind of gathering at my place on the 16th. So we'll see you there, and we are still hoping to have a show maybe over summer. So we'll see you there as well. So we'll keep you posted about that. And so it's not over yet, but at least Senior Studio has reached its end. I will remind you both to do the student evaluations for the Senior Studio. That's on the list, and it'd be great to have your these final presentations sent to me or uploaded to the Moodle as well. That'd be really, really useful, because then we talked about the submittable PDF. So I think we can talk about that outside of this class time, but it'd be great to have that final deliverable as a document as well. So
yeah, I mean, I just want to say congratulations to both of you. I mean, the fact that you were able to produce actual physical objects in this period of time is fantastic, really remarkable. And they're, what incredible work that you've done. And I mean, I think, one of the things, it would be great if there's, Kathy, you can tell me if there's a way for us to write a story about making in this time. So like one of the things that I've been doing is we have 2 writers in the design division, and I kind of send them out into the design division to write stories for us, and they become these kind of quite developed stories that end up on the EDU as a way to create new content that is going to be interesting for prospective students, current students. And I think this is a great story to be told, about the challenges of making work over this last year and how you did it and what it meant. I mean, I think, Adriana, your story is like really pertinent. I think many people will truly, connect with, what do I do, when I'm here on my own? How do I make sense of this world? And I think you, Leslie, too, building your studio in your house and being able to pursue your projects. And I think this is such a great set of stories right here. I think I'd love to find a way to do that if you're willing.
Oh yeah, sure. Of course. I love CCA, whatever you guys want.
And graduation on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Adriana, are you actually graduating too? Okay.
Yeah, I'm graduating.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
Soon to be alumnus.
yes, you'll hear from the alumni society, group very soon, wanting to rope you into future engagement with the college. There's no escaping, and we'll see you all soon. So thank you again.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Ciao.